Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Özge Acar, and I am the Deputy General Manager of NISMAP. It's a privilege to moderate this session on a topic that is no longer just a future concern, but a daily reality for millions: geospatial innovation during climate resilience. As NISMAP, I would like to briefly mention what we are doing, what we are trying to do. We are actually turning data into solidarity. Why we are passionate about this intersection of tech and humanity. At NISMAP, we operate as a nonprofit social technology platform, and also we are a nonprofit social cooperative that uses map-based, GIS-based data to connect the needs with the resources. We have lots of several solutions that we have a website that connect the people in need and those who would like to support the individuals and the communities and the companies. And also we have a social marketplace for social solidarity, linking the people with the local stores that the supporters can everywhere in the world can support. And we have more than 40 GIS-based web platforms that rely on the solidarity in Turkey and also in the world. We have an office in Turkey, and we have an also office in London and in Belgium as well. And we use GIS and a verified human in the loop system to identify exactly where the aid is needed at street level. Basically, I can describe it like that. So our discussion today, we are joined by a distinguished panel to discuss how we move from simply observing the planet to protecting its people. We have Matlas Kiango from University of Johannesburg. I hope I pronounced correctly. Is it correct?
Yes, you are not too far.
Thank you, thank you. And bringing deep expertise in Earth observation, Dean Nigara. Is it correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you.
Thank you. From the U.S. Embassy at Pretoria, who deeply know the critical intersection of health, safety, and environmental programming. We are at a unique crossroads. Uh, so, um, First introduce yourselves, then I can go to the questions. Dean Nigara,
Uh,
floor is yours.
okay. My name is Dean Ngara. I am more plus 15-year veteran in environmental data analysis. Currently in environmental data consultations, and yeah, I've worked different sectors from manufacturing, mining, to international organizations. Yeah, I think basically that's
Perfect.
it.
Perfect. Thank you. Mates Yango, is it better?
Yes,
Mates
thanks
Yango?
very much.
Thank you.
Um,
Now, floor is yours.
Nice to meet the both of you and Imre. Happy to be here. My name is Mahlatsi Kganyago. I know that the name is very difficult, but yeah, however you butcher it is okay. I'm based at the University of Johannesburg under the Department of Geography, Environmental Management, and Energy Studies. I have more than a decade of experience in applying Earth observation and machine learning algorithms to derive various products and services, stakeholder liaison, research, as well as capacity building. I work in vast environmental assessment and monitoring areas, which include food security, biodiversity, ecosystem monitoring, disaster management, land cover, land use mapping, urban assessment, air quality monitoring, and wildfire emissions. So I currently lead a number of locally and internationally funded projects that are focusing on water, food, and ecosystems nexus. Thank you very much. Looking forward to the discussion.
Perfect. Lots of great projects, lots of great jobs. Thank you very much. So I would like to dive into our first question. How is geospatial innovation driving climate resilience at global level, and how are Earth observation and AI are shaping the climate risk monitoring? So, dear Matis Yango, would you like to answer it?
Yeah, sure. So firstly, just to acknowledge the colossal amount of work that is ongoing by different agencies, governments, private companies, and individuals around the world, which are really driving the current trends that we are seeing, as well as the innovations which can be used to capacitate citizens in different nations to allow them to be able to plan better, to prepare better, and recover from a vast majority of climate related disasters and be able to adapt to them. So, such innovations like the advent of artificial intelligence and more specifically Geo AI techniques, which have really taken the geospatial analytics to the next level in terms of the accuracies that we are seeing in terms of the extracted information from satellite data sets. And apart from the accuracies that we are seeing from these techniques, um, we are looking at the capability to combine the different data sets, be it weather data, in situ data, satellite data, drone data sets, to characterize the different land surface properties, be it vegetation phenologies, changes in the surface, water, land cover land use changes, agricultural intensification monitoring, to really produce a more representative picture of the physical, the human, as well as the decision making processes. And secondly, in terms of the innovations that are driving the climate resilience at a global level, we are seeing a high number of satellites that are being launched with different characteristics, be it spatial and temporal resolutions. Probably today, I would assume that we have the highest number of the EO satellites that are orbiting the Earth than in the rest of the history. These new sensors, they incorporate the latest innovations in terms of the spectral coverage, while also ensuring data interoperability and inconsistency with the previous satellite legacy sensors. And this is where we really have to appreciate global coordination efforts, such as your CEOS, which stands for the Committee on Earth Observation Satellites, the Group on Earth Observations, and the programs in the European Union, such as Copernicus and NASA, that actually brought together various parties, including scientists, developers, engineers, ministers of different countries around the world, to not only discuss the current user requirements for climate monitoring and assessment, but also jot down the trajectory for the future missions. So the results of such efforts, for example, can be seen with the launch of Sentinel satellites, which addresses various land, oceans, and atmospheric emissions monitoring requirements at unprecedented spatial resolutions. So, mind you, all of these are provided free for any user across the world. So that's quite groundbreaking. And you have seen that with the satellites such as Sentinel-2 that were actually designed to be compatible with the legacy missions such as Landsat, Sentinel-3, which was also designed to be consistent with proper vegetation and Spot 5 satellites and MARIS and so on. So this in actually gives us the potential to be able to analyze long-term trends and predict how the disaster are going to be like in the future using the latest machine learning algorithms. And the increase in the data as well, in the past there was a problem of data shortages and so on, but we can no longer claim that there are data shortages anymore. Actually, we used to have a problem of big data. So this raises the questions of, okay, we have all this data, but then how do we deal with such colossal amount of data? How do we store it and how do we process it? And this is where the trends, in cloud computing, the data in infrastructures like data cube, have really become the saver in that regard. And, the discussion of data cubes have started some time ago, and we have now seen it being part of our daily lives in terms of analyzing the data. We no longer need to download the data scene by scene. We are able to actually just analyze at a global level, be able to apply our own algorithms, processing chains, and we do not really need high computing infrastructures in order to be able to do that. So that has really removed a lot of barriers, especially in developing regions across the world in terms of performing large scale analysis. And that has been enabled mainly by cloud computing platforms such as your Amazon Cloud Services and Google Earth engines that provide the capability to perform planetary scale analysis. And they have enabled a lot of other platforms like your Global Forest Watch, which allows the global analysis of forest changes and degradation globally, as well as forest carbon fluxes. So at a country level, this enables the countries to develop national greenhouse gas inventories and be able to make data-driven decisions and data-informed policies that are aimed at combating climate change and its impact. So just final remarks with regard to this geospatial innovations and how it drives climate resilience. We have to appreciate a lot of open source tools, like Quantum GIS and other tools that are available on the OSGeo platform that enable analysis of data, display of information, and sharing of this information in a much easier formats. And this removes the burden of cost. So we no longer have excuses in developing regions of the software cost. We're able to use freely available tools which actually integrate cutting edge functions and to provide much needed information to our local stakeholders as well. So yeah, if you look at the developments that are happening in the open software space, they are quite encouraging, particularly when you're looking at characterizing the climate risks and impact. That will really contribute to better supporting the governments to better manage the risks that are associated with climate change.
Thank you very much. You perfectly mentioned the evolvement of the GIS and geospatial technology from past to now our time. Thank you very much. Then, Nigara, what do you think about this question?
Yeah, thanks to my brother Mahlatse. He exhausted a lot of the detail that is happening in the industry. A couple of things that I that would like to also add is like the developments in the Earth observation infrastructure. You have more players coming into the market, especially from China and India, and even locally here in South Africa. You have smaller satellites being launched, more satellites being launched at a rapid pace. So we expect the cost, the data access costs to be lowered because of these players entering, having a variety of players entering the market. And from a Geo AI perspective, we having the Geo AI is allowing us to bring more value to Earth observation data, to bring my brother talked about big data, and there's a lot of variety of data that is there, and Geo AI is allowing us to add it and can contextualize Earth observation data more specific to specific local areas, to specific environments, and yeah, that's allowing information to be more relevant and more accurate to people. Um, Another important aspect is if you've noticed, no, just doing a brief research in AI being mentioned in the geospace, you have from 2 year, like in 2015, you have 2 papers being published per year. And then 2025, 2024, you have 25 papers on GeoAI being published. So this is a rapid increase in research and in development. And the nature of GeoAI or AI in itself, it's a collaborative space, and an open source space, and it works better in that. And I feel that collaborative space, allowing it to be more collaborative locally, allows it to develop fast and be more useful to us.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for all your great answers. Let's go to the second question. Let's go to Africa. And in Africa, where do you see the biggest opportunities for geospatial technologies in strengthening climate resilience? And what are the main changes? Dear Nigar, I would like to start from you.
Okay. Uh, so Africa historically is underdeveloped, and that is an opportunity in itself, to integrate learned knowledge from our more developed continents, and integrate it as we develop, as be let it be part of the process, the development process. Locally in South Africa, there's been headlines on things like smart cities being developed, and cities with a lot of Internet of Things integration. So that's where a key opportunity is in terms of Africa, in terms of allowing development to be centered from a GeoI perspective from the get-go, not as a matter of fact of correcting things. Another area that is very that has a big opportunity in Africa is in the mining sector. Mining sector, we are seeing more information being applied to mining developments, and the use of modeling per se. For example, when planning mines, or when planning like things like tailings dams, or so you can model, you can future proof the industry for damaging the environment and climate, climate resilience. It's a bigger opportunity. Another opportunity is in the processing of climate data to give more information in disease control. Africa is still has big problems with certain diseases like malaria, dengue fever, cholera, and that's a big opportunity where GeoAI or Geo Earth observation can come in and model how disease patterns historically, and again model it the future, how to look to identify future vulnerable areas. The climate and the environment are changing a lot in Africa. Some areas were dried are becoming more flood risk, and so diseases are moving according to those patterns. So that's a big opportunity to add GeoAI and Earth observation data to in the African context.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you. Dear Matlis Nyango, floor is yours.
Yes, thanks very much. And yeah, just to hammer on what Dean has mentioned, to acknowledge that Africa has many challenges, and most of these challenges, associated with like food security issues, extreme poverty, inequalities, water security, urbanization, desertification. If you look at most of these challenges are linked directly to climate change. And just to add again on what Dean has mentioned regarding the disasters, such as floods and droughts, which have been observed to become more frequent and intense and more severe as well, leading to loss of lives as well as infrastructure. So around December, January, we have seen severe flooding in Mozambique, Eswatini, Zimbabwe, and South Africa, northeastern South Africa. where a lot of infrastructure was destroyed, and about 200 people were killed as a result of these floods. Some news outlets have now, we are seeing the devastating floods that are happening in Kenya as well, where 43 lives were lost. So geospatial technologies, such as satellites, have been demonstrated through research, to be able to acquire images over such events, which can really help in evacuations and identification of potential sites for relocating residents, in a way then contributing to saving their lives. And the global initiatives, such as International Charter, Space and Disaster and Major Disasters, which is a worldwide collaboration among the space agencies, to acquire data during such major disasters to support emergency response and disaster management. Such initiatives are already contributing positively towards combating major disasters related to the floods. And the data acquired is streamed to local disaster management authorities. Like in South Africa, we have National Disaster Management Center and space agencies like South African National Space Agency to perform damage assessment and rescue operations, that will help in disaster response as well as mitigation. So the challenge becomes processing and analysis of such data, as some of these organizations in some of the African countries lack the capacity to actually rapidly process data and extract critical information about the extent of the floods affected households and so on. So I just want to put emphasis on rapid extraction of information, because even if the information is provided timely, within 2 days or so, um, we still it rather comes a bit later, and it is not useful for certain applications such as your rescue operations and so on. Therefore, there is a need to actually have much more coordinated efforts among the different sectors in order to speed up the processing of the data and quickly send that information to people that needs to make decisions to actually save lives. And another trend that is actually happening, which provides the biggest opportunity, is the drone technology, because they can be flown under most of the weather conditions that some optical satellite data are limited. So such typical, I mean, the clouds, for example, are known to limit the utility of the satellite images, especially the optical images. But with regards to the drones, they can be equipped with various payloads, that to detect thermal signatures of people that may be trapped in certain areas. They can provide detailed analysis of the impacts, and even for localized flooding that may not feed as a major disaster that can be covered by the international charter. Then we are able to actually analyze or collect the data and be able to save lives. So until now, I have mentioned, the utility of the spatial technologies during and after the disaster, but these technologies can also be used across the entire life cycle of disasters, the stages such as, during mitigation to prevent and reduce the risk, and preparation to plan better for the future disasters, because we already know that they are occurring at a much frequent rate. So that's another opportunity to develop applications that look at flood risks and hazard zones, by overlaying spatial layers and so on, which are really some of the well-established methodologies, which also can include, hydrological modeling to simulate flood scenarios using historical rainfall and topographic data. So Dean also touched on, urban planning and so on. So such kind of information will really help to avoid just reacting to these disasters, but to proactively plan to avoid severe impacts of the disasters. You know, um, like I said, most of these analysis techniques are well established and they're available in many, softwares and so on. But what is really lacking and that can be identified as a biggest opportunity is the lack of operational systems in Africa to actually inform governments and the public about the potential climate-related dangers that they may be facing. So we have, platforms like Digital Earth Africa that have made a lot of strides in making the data available, through aggressive capacity building, and also local organizations such as SANSA, as I've mentioned, Agriculture Research Council, CSIR, and regionally we have the RCMRD that develop many spatial data products the extent to which they can be used for planning, decision making, from policy implementation um, at various government departments. But we don't really know if the government departments are actually adopting this technology and using them every day. We know that the systems are there, the data are being produced by these different organizations, but the extent to which these products are used is really not known. And from my experience, I know that it is not really used as it is supposed to be. So there's an opportunity to actually have these data sets and systems that actually inform, the daily decision making, as well as monitor policy implementation and so on. And some of the data sets can also be simplified much further and be made more less technical in a form of dashboards to provide statistics and reports. Um, those are the formats that are actually understood by anyone, by majority of the stakeholders. Yeah, so I just want to stop there for the sake of time.
Perfect. You have touched very important points, both of you. Thank you very much. And also I would like to add something. Um, in this map, what we are doing is what you're describing, dear Matlis Kiango, making the maps easy readable by everyone, so that everyone can understand the real situation, what is really going on there.
Yeah.
This is a very important point. And the other important point is you have mentioned that a lot of maps and sources are produced. So I think that's great for GIA as well. That they can collect all these data together and they can produce predictions for the future. And both of you mentioned that it's very important, very crucial that these tools, these opportunities can be used for before disaster, during disaster, and after disaster as well, to prevent and to mitigate some uh, disasters. So thank you very much for your great answers. Then let's go to
Welcome.
the third question. How can satellites, geospatial data, and advanced analytics work together to improve early warning systems, disaster response, and community level resilience? We have a little bit mentioned, but now let's dive deep dive with this question. Now, Matlis, can we start with you? Here you are.
Yes, thanks very much. Just to add, so as the university, we're actually implementing also a number of, collaborative projects where we are collaborating with the industry. For
Mhm.
example, we are implementing the air quality and atmospheric emissions monitoring platform with South African National Space Agency. And we are also looking at implementing a prototype for the water quality monitoring that will provide national water quality status to build on our previous project that is funded by the Water Research Commission. And we are also implementing an operational monitoring system. So, for the question at hand, without the analysis approaches, we have satellite data and other spatial data sets. They will just be data, right? We won't be able to um, extract any information without these analysis approaches. Therefore, yes, we need to combine the variety of data sets, and the recent advances in machine learning and AI approaches allow us to actually extract high level information that can be understood by anyone. So the integration of these technologies, the satellites, the advanced analytical frameworks have been established already. For example, at global level, when you look at platforms like FuseNet, GeoGlem Crop Monitor, Crop Watch bulletins from China, which are providing global data sets and bulletins to different countries, and they're already using them for decision making and so on. So the platforms like your Digital Earth Africa, as I've mentioned, and Google Earth Engine are also providing freely available cloud computing resources, which make also data accessible without the need to download it first. So we need to learn from such initiatives and perhaps develop further to make the information relevant and fit for purpose for specific users. So platforms must be targeted at, and the platforms actually that are targeted at analysts cannot address the needs of a farmer or a policy maker or parliamentarians, you know. So uh, a lot of research has actually demonstrated the utilities of these technologies. We have seen studies that are looking at machine learning, the potential of machine learning to derive agricultural variables, you know, using various satellite sensors, and the application of advanced analytical techniques in drought propagation. Actually, we are part of a BRICS funded project with China, Brazil, and India, where we are developing models that will look at drought propagation from meteorological to agricultural to hydrological and socioeconomic. So to add on that, there is also several success stories of the implementation of such technologies at a local scale in several countries, where societal benefits and economic benefits were reported, you know. But just to emphasize again that operational implementation is going to be a game changer, because at the moment in Africa, it's rather going very slowly, and also the uptake by the governments is really slow. So there is a lot of potential in terms of adopting some of the techniques for early warning systems and disaster response and community level resilience, but we need to operationalize most of these techniques so that they are not just sitting in research papers and small pilot projects. We need to start making them, to embed them in policy making and also in government departments.
Perfect. You perfectly pointed the situation. Um, Producing the data is not enough, always enough. Producing the sources is not enough. You should analyze, take action, operationalize it, and make it to a product for everyone's use or a group of people's use. So that's a very important point. So, Mr. Nigara, how would you like to contribute this question?
Yeah, again, my brother Matlatse did a sound explanation and robust explanation, and just a few things to add there. I think, firstly, we need to, for there to be a real world impact, we need to establish geoanalytics as a communal good, separating it from the commercial side of things. And so we're talking about disasters, we're talking about climate change, we're talking about yeah, droughts and things like that. The general idea behind geoanalytics is always supposed to be, it's a communal good. So access to data, again, has to be open source. There in Africa, not just globally, the issues with when it comes to data security, data sovereignty. But I feel like there's a certain level of data access that can be parceled out for the general good of everyone. So things like flood mapping, flood forecasting, creating being able to create digital twins using high level SIR data, so that you can focus, you can forecast floods or droughts. Uh, can be very useful. Geoanalytics needs to go from being in the global or in the general atmosphere. People see it as just mapping, and obviously us, because we're in the industry, we know it's more than mapping, but it needs to translate down to the people. So we need to make it applicable. We need to show how it is applicable uh, for everyone and how it benefits everyone, and we make it we establish it as a communal good and an open source application.
Perfect. Thank you. I have been in this sector for 15 years, and it's a little bit sad that we still talk about data sovereignty, open data. We have been uh, talking about it for years and years, but I hope one day we will solve all of these issues. But it's a happy thing that every day, every year, open data and open sources are evolving and getting more and more. For instance, Mr. Matlaskango mentioned two open sources I remembered, Copernicus and NASA. We are using these sources too. For especially the disasters in Turkey, we have wildfires from 2021 to every summer we have earthquakes. So uh, really, they are really useful data sources that we can analyze and go to action and operate something. Thank you very much. So our next question: what is needed to move from pilot climate projects to large scale? As Mr. Matlas Yango a little bit mentioned about it. Sustainable implementation and based on your experience, what lessons you have learned? Let's start from you, Dinigara.
I think one of the biggest lesson I've learned in the industry is explainability. We need to make this data more understandable to the general public. We understand the. It's just like right now the talk with AI. Everyone thinks it's gonna come to kill us, Terminator style in the future. Um, we need to be able to find ways of getting this information out on how GeoAI tools are helpful and how they can improve the quality of life for everyone. From the government and policy perspective, we have a lot of talk currently in Africa. We have a lot of talk of data infrastructure. There's a lot of talks of investments of building data infrastructure from I think a billionaire, Zimbabwean billionaire, Masiwa Cassava Technologies, building something in South Africa, if I understand correctly. I think Nigeria, I think Standard Bank was talking about building data infrastructure in Standard Bank in Kenya. So there's talk of data infrastructure. Unfortunately, it's all at a commercial level. Um, and in some way, we need to find, from a government perspective, we need to find ways of having people at universities like Mahlatse, who use the data, who have a sound knowledge of how to use data and how to process data. They should be able to access these infrastructure again to use it for global good. So some part of these infrastructure should be allocated to universities, to education facilities, so that work can be done to develop for again for disaster preparedness, for disaster modeling, and yeah. one interesting thing that also I've noticed, also I'm at Wits, and I understand Mahlatse, Wits University here in Joburg. Mahlatse was there as well. I've heard his name being mentioned in the corridors, like he was doing his PhD there, and how brilliant he was. And hopefully I'll be able to follow suit. But being at Wits has allowed me to gain an understanding of the work that's being done by different groups of people, work that is transformational in the geoanalytic space, a work that is very helpful. But again, it's behind the academic wall. How do we get this information out? How do we get communities to understand how this work is critical to them? So I think that's important. That's a really important part in the scaling and implementation, successful implementation. Thank you.
I totally agree with you. Thank you very much. Dear Matexiango, what would you like to say?
Yes, definitely agree with Dean on the points that he has made. Yeah, I have also, been participating in a lot of projects. We have implemented various, food security monitoring projects for Africa. For example, the Africultures project that was funded by H2020, the European Union. The Crop Watch for South Africa, which we did with the UK Space Agency and Airbus. So the challenge now is that this project, they come and go, and most of our institutions, they actually interested in income. So we implement a project, and then what is the next one, once we get the funding. So we are constantly looking for funding, and there is new ideas every time, and of course we have to respond to whatever that the funder wants to us to implement. So that brings a challenge, because we speak to the stakeholders, we make promises, and then we demonstrate that this can work, and then we are gone, right? So that is not good, because we are actually working backwards. There is a lot of projects that are reinventing the wheel. So in Africa, we need to move away from that and start funding most of this research ourselves. And there's opportunities such as your cloud computing infrastructures that can bypass the requirements for local supercomputers or massive data downloads. So those are some of the opportunities that we can leverage for operationalization to move those pilot projects to large-scale projects and sustainable projects. Moreover, the international projects, yes, it's good to collaborate with international partners, because we bring different knowledges to the table. But however, they have to be co-designed and co-developed with the local users. Otherwise, most of the time, then they seem imposed, and then the adoption rate is quite low. In some cases, non-existent. So these projects also, I think they should have a clear sustainability plan to promote local ownership and involve the skills transfer as well, to capacitate the local stakeholders. I think one of the projects that has done this well, that is a program, is the Digital Earth Africa, where the office can move to any country within Africa, and they are focusing a lot on capacity building, and the local organizations are actually leading the implementation of this project. So that's I think, one of the few ways that we can upscale our projects and make them more sustainable and improve with time, rather than working backwards. So there's also a need to integrate other data sets. So the Earth observation data alone is not enough. So we need to train local extension workers, for example, in agriculture, to use simple tools like your mobile apps to collect the on-field data set that can feed into AI models that we are developing, to validate them, to train them. That's one way to actually increase the scalability of the projects and the robustness of those projects. And most critically, yeah, like I mentioned, we need sustained finance so that we can fund these activities. Um, because yeah, relying on timed project-based finances that we do not really have control over, it's working backwards, and we're busy reinventing the wheel. And there's a need for greater coordination and collaboration among academia, among the private sector, and research institutions, as well as governments, to bring together these different minds to come up with, solutions, um, and also the systems that are developed just by one sector. It's quite limiting, and most of the time doesn't meet the needs of the stakeholders. So if you bring together these different people, academics are more familiar with research and they are very excellent at it. Private sector great at commercialization, marketing, research institutions playing a role as well there in terms of development of some um, highly technical products, government feeding in the policy perspective into the development of this system so that they can use it for reporting, for planning, for monitoring purposes. So to finalize, just to emphasize that we need to build local capacity. That's the one way that we can be able to make our projects more sustainable and scale the projects.
Thank you for these valuable insights and thoughts, and your, especially your experience is very valuable. Thank you very much. Now it's my last question, but we have a very limited time, so shortly I would like to have some answers from you. Looking ahead, what is truly next for geospatial innovation in climate resilience across Africa and globally? Dear Matles Yango, may I start from you?
Yes, so at the pace that the technology is going is really hard to tell. But for Africa, I think as the capacity develops, we are starting to see, we need I mean, in the future, we'll be able to see more embedding of the geospatial technologies into adaptation plans and for reporting purposes. And there's also a growth in terms of the number of CubeSats, as Dean has mentioned. These satellites have been launched by countries like Kenya, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, South Africa, but we need to actually have access to this data because currently they are nowhere to be found. So we need this African Space Agencies to actually benefit everyone to release such data so that academia can perform research, the private companies can develop products from them, And there's a lot of work that is happening. For example, companies, as Dean has mentioned, Dragonfly, FSAT at CPUT, they're manufacturing satellites as well as satellite components that are being even shipped internationally. UKZN is developing, rockets and testing these rockets. So we should see in the future the more stimulated local industry, provided that there is more funding that is supported to such initiatives. And, there is a greater coordination, for example, with the Department of Science and Innovation entities like SANSA, NRF, and Technology Innovation Agency that are bringing funding that is targeted at Earth observation projects in South Africa. So that has seen a significant interest from entrepreneurs, and that is positive because it shows that the government is becoming more reliant, and within Africa, actually, that shows that well, it's an indicator that it is like that kind of model is likely to be adopted by other African countries, and we'll see a growing commercialization of the technology and growing sector that involves both the African youth as well as women as the co-creators of these geospatial solutions.
Perfect. When you open the data, you foster the collaboration and innovation as well. So that's a very important point. Thank you. So, Mr. Dean Nigara, what would you like to say?
I think just a few additions from government policy perspective locally in Africa. I think there is need to again move geo AI geoanalytics from just a um, mapping use case to more decision making in every aspect, health, infrastructure development. Again, Africa is in a unique position to develop correctly, to develop in an environmental and a climate resilient manner. So again, from a government perspective, there is need to integrate it in every aspect of government decision making. Um, with the increase of satellites that we talked about earlier, uh, uh, the next stage is the use of those satellites and accessing those data. I didn't know that we're not getting any data from the satellites that were launched from Kenya and Zimbabwe, which is quite sad. But again, we need to use this data to create African-centric models that are usable in Africa, that are labeled on African data, and there's a big space in creating those models that are uh, uh, um, usable in Africa and useful in Africa. So those are the two areas or three areas that I think we need to move to next.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here and to meet with you and discuss about just special innovation driving climate resilience. I think there is a lot to talk. We can talk for several
True.
hours about
Yeah.
this, but I think we covered most of the topics. So I think that was a great effort. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for moderating the session. Yeah, you've been great, and thanks to Dean as well. I think conversations such as these are much needed, and thanks Emre for organizing and inviting us. Looking forward to participating in the future as well to such conversations, because I think it's really important to continue talking about it and not do it once and forget about it.
Yeah, sure. And it was really nice to hear your insights, and thanks again for sharing your experiences. And please be sure that you will be seen again in this scene. So
Yeah.
thank you again for your contribution. Now we have to jump another session. Have a great day. Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye.